Hi everyone, and welcome to A Righteous Woman. I'm Fusi, and I'm your host for tonight, our guest host. Normally we have our awesome hostess, normally Sani, but tonight I will be hosting. And just to reintroduce our lovely panelists again, we have Irene, we also have Abish, Gladys, and Sani. So hi to everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. And we hope that this episode will be of help to you in terms of uplifting you as we discuss a very important topic for us as women. Tonight we're going to be talking about comparison, so like comparing our lives to others. We're also going to be discussing not having it all together, and also we're going to be discussing wanting more with your life and how to deal with the guilt that might be attached there if you do want more in your life. Just before we get to that, I'm just going to mention our challenge from last week. So last week we invited our viewers, to do something nice for your mother, and I feel pretty confident that everyone watching is going to say, yes, I did something nice for my mom, as we just had Mother's Day. And so if you did do something, just drop a comment below and the comments below, so that let us know what you did for your mother. So back to our topic. I'm going to invite our panelists to think about an experience, and to think about an experience where they experienced one of those things, and we'll start from there. So, when was a time, sisters? When was a time in which you were comparing yourself to someone else, or someone compared someone else to you, and how did it make you feel? Or when was a time where you felt like you didn't have it all together, and you felt like that was bothering you because other people expected you to have it all together? Or when was a time that you wanted something more for your life and you felt guilty about that because you knew that your circumstances were a little bit different from what you're wanting? So I'm going to pick Sani to go first and to just comment on one of those three things. When was a time that you felt one of those, were having an experience to do with one of those things?
Thank you for choosing me to go first.
You're welcome.
One thought that came to mind as you were talking was about education. For me, I left school in the middle of my seventh form year. And the reason why I left school was that I went to take a course with Air New Zealand because I wanted to be in the travel industry. And for my parents, they didn't like it. They didn't like the fact that I chose. And for me, it was just, I'm just moving from this place of education to another one. But that's not what my parents, what my parents saw. And it was hard because I think being compared to other children who would end their seventh form year in school and then go on to study. But for me, being educated at school wasn't really my thing, and I realized it quickly that I didn't want to go on to uni. And so it was really hard for me because my parents, because I'm an only child, there's a lot of expectations there. There's no other sibling to fall back on. It's just me, like there's no one else. And so that was very hard on me growing up. But I realized that even though I didn't want to be formally educated like in school, but I really like self-education as well, like learning new things with my hands, learning through podcasts and things like that. And so I'm still learning in that form. But yeah, it was quite hard for me to be compared to other children growing up in my teenage years. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sani. I was just thinking back to our episode last week and the mothers that shared about, the journey, the sacrifice they made coming here and the reason they came here, and like how that kind of influences, because I know Sani's parents are probably similar to my Tongan parents. Like they have this one idea, right, of like the way success looks. But as Sani shared, like success, I feel like what you're saying, Sani, is that formal education is not the only way to be successful, and that's so true. And I see Irene nodding her head, so I feel like she must be next. Irene, do you want to add to that?
Thanks, Lucy. No, I was just gonna say, years ago, gosh, so long ago, when I became a mum, I grew up differently from my husband and his family. Single parent home for a little bit after losing my mother. But my father, he didn't exactly practice the norms that, you know, some of our Pacific Island parents, when they come here, they want that for their children to have that higher education, and that's all good, you know. They want them to be a doctor. My father was always encouraging us that we can only be as good as we put ourselves out there to be. I always took that lesson, and I never claimed to try and be better than anybody else, to be honest, because I already had my own struggles being a teenage mum. But it's something that me and my husband, we agreed when we became parents that we wouldn't be those kind of parents that have those high expectations on our children and compare. And I feel like over the years my family alone have been compared with others, and that you know, they don't, not all of them have tertiary education, and they have that piece of paper, but we've always encouraged them that, you know, the kind of education you get is something that you're going to want to have to do to apply in a job that you want later on, and you want to show up to that job and be happy with it. So my children, those that have already you know, gone out there into the work field, some of them are still, you know, they're in their 20s and they're still trying to find their way, and I'm okay with that, you know. And not everybody's like me and my husband, but we've always wanted to be those kind of parents that are there to pick them up when they fall. And that's something that even now we still apply to our young ones. You know, as long as we're very big on them finishing high school, it's really important to, you know, because now there's that big thing about getting your NCA, your levels, blah, 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 blah. But I always tell them it just gets a foot in the door, if I can put it like that. And then open up more doors and more opportunities for them. And from there, they can do whatever, you know. And so that's something that I totally agree on, because I've experienced personally with some of our youth that, you know, have shared that school's just not for them. And so, you know, they found other ways to, because like Saini said, you know, sometimes you're like good with your hands, and there's institutions out there that can help. And I feel like that's something that I don't know, just that, like you said, comparing, we need to understand children now. I don't know if you guys can agree with me, but I find the youth of today very different from my time. So much is out there in front of them, you know, and they're always being compared to so much. And for me as a mother, I'm constantly always worrying about their mental health, always, about my children. And even some of them that are already married, I always got to make sure, are you okay? You know, I'm here. I mean, your dad, you can't talk to me, you can talk to dad. Just things like that, you know, to try and just, I don't know, help them realize that you don't have to live with that stigma of comparison to others. Yeah, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does. Really good point. Awesome points, Irene. It reminded me what you and Saini just shared, because we're talking specifically about education, reminds me of when I was trying to figure out what to do with my, like, what career to pursue. And I remember telling, you know, Tongans, I feel like they only sorry to all the Tongans, but just this is true, okay? Tongans seem to think there are only two professions that mean
Can
that
I say what the profession
you're good. So, sorry, what?
Can I say what the profession is?
Yes, go. See, Gladys and Saini are laughing because they know what I'm about to say. What's the two professions?
Doctor or lawyer?
Doctor or lawyer. So, doctor or lawyer. So Tongans seem to think that if you're a doctor or lawyer, then you made it. But if you're anything else, you're not good enough. So yes, that's exactly it. And I remember telling my parents when I was trying to figure out what career I wanted to pursue, I actually wanted to be an architect, and they were like, "What's that?" and then when I actually got to uni, like I ended up studying English because I ended up with a scholarship that forced it because it was a scholarship for an arts degree. And the crack up thing is this conversation I will never forget in my whole life. I remember my parents asking me, "So what are you studying? What are you doing with the arts degree?" I said, "I'm going to study English. I'm going to study English because I'm good at it. Not those ones, because I'm good at it. But also I enjoyed it because I was good at it." So then my parents go, my mum, she's a crack up lady. This is what she said. She goes, "I don't know any Tongan writers." And I was like, quite like, whoa, okay. And then my reply was this: "Well, I'm going to be the first. They're probably Tongan writers, guys, I'm just saying." But this was my reply to my mom, which is kind of like trying to say, I'm not going to be a doctor and I'm not going to be a lawyer, so just relax. I'm going to be something, though. Be happy about that. I could have been something else, like, that she doesn't approve of. And so I like the comments that were shared by Saini and were shared by Irene, because it's true. What I got from what you both said and what I was trying to share is that everybody has a different path. Yeah. Everybody has a different path. And just because it doesn't look like just because what other people are doing doesn't look like what you're doing, or just because you don't know what that path looks like, right, which is what I was trying to say with my example, doesn't mean it's not a good one. Everybody's following their own path. And my feelings about that is that if it's what the Lord wants, if it's what God wants for that person's life, they're going to be successful regardless. Okay, thanks you two for your comments. I'm going to go to Abish. Abish, what are your thoughts on that? Not necessarily education, like just comparison, not having it all together, or wanting more for your life. What are your thoughts about that?
I think probably comparison. I can't think of pinpoint an exact time that I was comparing, but I know that I would do that. I would compare myself to other people like a few years ago, and even on social media, you're not consciously doing it, but subconsciously you're comparing yourself. You're like, oh, their life is perfect, my life is this, and so you're judging yourself, you're comparing yourself to these people. But it wasn't until I realized how it was making me feel. I wasn't feeling very good about myself, and then I thought, I need to do something different. Like, this is not healthy. I wasn't going crazy, but I realized that wasn't self-love. Like, it wasn't helping me out. And so I had to I unfollowed, I deleted certain people that I was following that weren't showing people being real, because a lot of people on social media are just showing us their highlight reel, the good things that are going on in their life, but they're not showing their downsides kind of thing. And so I deleted all those people, and I started following more accounts that I could relate to, those that were struggling but really trying to get through whatever they were going through, things that I was going through. I started following other people, and that really helped me, and it really I don't know, it just started to open my eyes to comparison. Like, it's really a big thing, especially for our young people. We have to realize that, like you were saying, everyone has their own path. But if I'm kind of stuck in a loop where all I'm doing is scrolling and I'm looking at all these other people's lives that are only showing the positive, and I'm feeling bad about myself, I really have to take a step back and look at what it is that I really want in my life. Because if you're going to follow what they're doing in their life and you get there, because it's not really at your core that you want those things, you're not going to be happy. So you have to take a step back and say, okay, what is it that I really, what makes me happy? What do I want? And then you have to take those steps to follow your own path, light your own road kind of thing, and find that happiness. So yeah, that was something that I used to do, but I realized it wasn't, healthy, and like, I'm way better now. I just follow some awesome people that have issues like me, and life is good.
Yeah, good, awesome. You highlighted a very important element of like comparison, which is that social media is just blowing that up, right? Like, because you're looking at everybody's like positive stuff, which is not a bad thing that people are posting that. But then you're gonna, if I think like Abish mentioned, and I think this relates to what Irene said before about mental health, is like you subconsciously compare and you don't realize you're actually doing that. So Gladys, do you want to add to that? Do you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, actually, I resonate with what Abish is saying, and especially with the whole social media thing. A lot of the times, you know, we tend to post certain things, not realizing that we're doing it, but we do it anyways. And you know, a lot of the times they look from an outside perspective and think, oh, she has it so put together. But in reality, you know, sometimes I feel that social media is like not a fake platform, but kind of like a cover up of what, you know, what you want what you expect your life to be like. I'm not saying that everything I post is fake. All I'm saying is that I guess with me, I've been a victim of cyberbullying, and it was more so right after I got married. At the start of my marriage, I went through this whole cyberbullying thing where, you know, people who I thought were my friends or people who I thought loved and cared about me, I was able to identify and know that, you know, their true feelings towards me. And I was really at a point in my life where I was feeling really down and like, I guess like even like not feeling accepted and like just going through the whole like cultural differences with culture. You know, I had a typical Tongan marriage, and I don't normally talk about stuff like this, and so this is like really, really personal for me to talk about. Like, I had a problem. There was a situation, an issue that I had with my mother-in-law, and she said a few things that were, you know, she said a few things on social media. There were a few exchanges between my family and my in-laws, and, you know, I was really in a bad headspace at the time. Like, I think, like, I don't remember crying so much. And I thought to myself, like, what did I get myself into? Like, I thought marriage was supposed to be a happy time. I thought that, you know, I love my husband, I love this man, but, you know, why is his family doing this to me? And, like, you know, it took me a long time to heal. It was a long healing process. And, like, you know, right now today, I can say I have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. And, you know, it took a while for me to get to that. And I think one of the things that helped me get through that trial and that challenge, to actually forgive and see past all that hurt that I was feeling at the time, was that I don't remember, like, I prayed so much, and I guess I came off social media for a bit of a long period, like that whole time frame period that I was going through all that stuff. And I had a really supportive husband at the time. And one of the things I am forever grateful for is that every time my friends would come over, he would always tell them, hey, look, you know, whatever you've seen on social media about my wife, could you please not relay that message onto her? Like, you know, she's happy. She looks like she has it all put together. Like, she's smiling and she's okay with you guys. But when you leave, like, she's crying and she's in tears, like, she's hurt. And I have to pick up after that. And, like, I saw how he saw me at my most vulnerable. And, like, for a long time, like, I just felt like, you know, why me? Why did I have to go through this? Like, I did everything that I thought I was doing right at the time. Like, you know, and being the oldest child, you have a lot of expectations in a big family. And, you know, I guess, like, with me, it's just, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cry on this episode, but I've learned so much. I think that when my daughter was born and when I became a mother myself, I understood and I knew the importance of how it was to be a mother. And I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, but my husband had cut ties with his mother. and I seen how hurt he was and how that affected him over the time frame period that he didn't have that relationship with her. And so, you know, when my daughter was born, I felt like God didn't, like, he provided a way for me to heal, and I felt that my daughter was my blessing in disguise. Like, you know, I felt that she came in the right time for me to be able to transfer all that hurt and pain into like this beautiful, loving girl that was born. And like, I put all my focus and heart into this precious daughter that I was, you know, I was a mother for, and I wanted to be the best mother that I can be for her. And along the process, I was able to heal because of my daughter. And that's what I mean, like, a mother's love for her child is far greater beyond anything. And I'm so grateful for that challenge and that trial. Like, a lot of the times, like now, you know, like, we're happy, we're in a good place, but then there are times where, you know, I'm not in a good place. But I think that because we are able to communicate and talk about our feelings and things that we go through as a married couple, it helps me grow, and we feel more connected with one another. And a lot of times, I try not to, like Abish, I try not to make comparisons with people on social media. Like, sorry guys.
Okay.
I'm just so grateful for, like, I'm not grateful for the trial, the hurt, the pain, but I can say I've become a better person because of it. But yeah.
Thank you, Gladys, for having the courage to share that. And as you were sharing that, I was thinking of, like, how many other people are watching this right now that are thinking, man, that's me too, that I've had that experience too. And it takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable, right? And to open up about something very personal, as you mentioned. So thank you, sis, for sharing that with us. Why do you think it is that people don't share more of the vulnerable stuff, like more the stuff that, like just like Gladys gave a really good example of that. Is like, why do you think people don't share that sort of stuff more online, but just show all the parts that make it look like everything's perfect? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like they sometimes they don't want anyone to see that vulnerability. They don't want anyone. I certainly have. I'm going to share this, what's going on right now. Like, you guys heard of that 25 push-up challenge, yeah? And it's bringing awareness to suicide, depression, anxiety, mental health. And I've been there. That's why it's, you know, I've seen some haters on Facebook, and it kind of really got to me, ladies? And, you know, sometimes, because me and my children, we've been talking about that challenge, and I took it on when my daughter challenged me, because I've been there. I've been in that dark space that I thought that I could never ever go to. I don't speak of it because it's kind of like Gladys, it's really, really personal. And, you know, I give this front off, like, I'm a happy person, guys. But you don't want anyone to see that side. It's like a, you know, an island thing is like a ma thing, you know. You got to show that strong front. I'm a proud, strong Samoan woman, but I first realised that I didn't want to believe it when I was diagnosed with postnatal depression, because I've always been a bubbly, happy person. But I realised that when I had number 10 and I didn't have it together, like Gladys said. And when I mean I didn't have it together, I've always been the type that was really organised. Time for everything to a T. And, you know, get up in the morning, get the kids ready, get them off to school, come home, do the cleaning, blah, blah, blah. Certain time for everything. One day after I had number 10, I woke up one morning, and I started thinking I was doing what I normally do, organise, you know, not realising I trashed my house. My house is usually spick and span. And then I thought, that's not right. And I was in a really dark space. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go check it out. Maybe my doctor could fix it. It wasn't a nice feeling. It's not nice when you've been such a, all your life you've been this organized person, you're on point with everything. And I went and, they did this test on me. My doctor did all these test questions. And when he said to me that, he's like, Irene, you have postnatal depression. And I was like, no, it doesn't happen to me. I'm a happy person. I've always been. I've got like nine other kids. I can't be like this. It's It took me a while to figure it out, ladies. And for me, that's what I just wanted to share with Gladys. It's okay. I want to share with anyone out there that's going through these things. It's okay. It's okay to not have it together, but you got to find help. You got to find the avenue out. He wanted to give me medication. I was against stuff like that, girls. Like this is me, for me. I was against that. I didn't want to take any kind of medication that's going to suppress anything that's going on with me, mess with my head. But by the grace of God, and I'm being serious, lots and lots of prayers, lots and lots of love from my husband. And because I just had my husband and my children. I've got my siblings in there, but it wasn't the same, if anyone can understand what I'm saying. So my husband was there. He'd drop everything when I had my dark moments. And I just want to say, I've never spoken about this, guys. Oh my goodness. I went to those dark places. I never thought that. I hear about those dark places. I couldn't believe I've been down to those dark places. But man, I tell you, I'm so grateful for my husband. He almost lost his job because of me a few times, because he dropped everything. He could tell something wasn't right with me.
I love that.
It's been a few years, man. I haven't spoken about things like that at all.
And that tells me it's actually very inspired. Thank you, Irene, for having the courage to share that. You were talking about that, and I was trying to hold my own tears because I've been in those dark places too. And I think lately I've been going down that road quite a bit. As you were talking about your own, your struggles with that, I was thinking about a conversation I just had with my brother yesterday. We were talking after we had our sacrament, and he was just, I know what he was doing. He's trying to check up on me, and I don't like it because I don't want to talk. That's just me. And he said to me as we were talking, because I've been to counseling before. I have some mental health issues. And it's funny because people don't know this about me. I look very put together. And the thing is, it's just, if someone asks, then I'll talk about it. But it's not something you're just going to parade and go, hey, I have problems, That's the thing. And he said to me yesterday, he was saying to me, when he was checking up on me, he said, have you thought about going to counseling again? I've been to counseling multiple times with different people, and I feel like I keep having a bad experience. And on reflection of that conversation, I think maybe it's just me. And that's what I got from what Irene said. As Irene was sharing, is maybe I just don't want to admit that I have a problem that is bigger than myself. And maybe I don't want to go to the place that I need help from. Because, just as Irene was saying, like, she didn't think that would happen to her. I didn't think that would happen to me either. And I find myself, this almost got quite emotional, because it's like what you were saying, Irene, was you were telling me without realizing that it's okay to not be all together, and it's okay to have a problem, and that maybe I need to get the help that my brother's trying to say I need to get. I think that is a key thing that we're talking about here, is that maybe part of the reason why we don't, because that was a question that was posed, was why don't people post more of the challenges that they may be going through. And I think there's a stigma attached to posting about being vulnerable online, right? Like when you're posting, I don't know about you guys, but for me, and you guys can comment on that too, is like I don't want to be judged by other people about what I'm going through, without realizing that maybe sharing the struggle is actually going to help someone else. So, Abush and Saini or Gladys, do you guys want to share anything in response to that about like being
guys.
able to? No, you'll find Irene. You can share again too. Being able to like recognize you have a problem and seeking out the help that you need.
Yeah,
I think family. So go ahead, Abish.
There you go. It's okay.
I think with me, I didn't seek help where I should. I think I should have. Maybe I should have. I didn't even know whether like me myself being like, you know, it's typical Pacific Islander. You don't realize you just think like, oh, you know, I'll get over it. It's just something. It's just a phase I'm going through, but I don't realize the seriousness of it and how it's affecting me mentally. But I think just having the right support people around you, like just positive vibes, having a good family around you, and just having that support around you. I reckon that's one thing that pulled me through, was my daughter, and then just family.
Yeah, I think society it's starting to change, but society kind of looks down on people that have problems and everything. But I think it's starting to change because there are a lot more people starting to share their problems and their vulnerabilities, and there definitely is power in being vulnerable. You're able to share something so deep and meaningful or sensitive to you, and then someone's going to comment and be like, oh, hey, I just went through that, and either help you or you just feel okay that someone else is actually going through that, and so you feel a bit more okay. And I think I learned a lesson a few years ago. I was going through one of the toughest times in my life, but usually I would keep it all to myself and try and get through it. But this is something that no one can get through on their own. And so I did something different. I actually told some of my friends, and that kind of formed a really big bubble around me. And that bubble got me through. But if I didn't tell anyone, then I would still be suffering, and, you know, the story would have turned out so bad. But because I spoke out, I kind of formed a bubble around me, and I was able to get through it. And so I've definitely learned that there's power in being vulnerable, and people are starting to share when they have problems or just going through something. And when you're able to share, someone's able to help. If you don't share, no one really knows what you're going through. But it's normal for you to go through things that aren't so good and that are trials and challenges. It's a normal part of life, but it's not normal if you're going to try and get through it alone. Life is about people coming in and helping you get through that.
And I love that Abish is like highlighting that, because Gladys and Irene both mentioned that too, which is for Irene it was her husband and her family. Gladys was her family, and in this case, Abish is sharing her friends were very helpful in helping her get through that tough time. And so that's something really important for us to remember, right? Which is that to lean on those around us. Absolutely. Sandy, did you want to comment?
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experiences. I really believe that there is a time where friends and family are there to help, and there's also a time where you do need to seek professional help. And I just want to put it out there is a stigma. Islanders don't go counseling. That's not who we are, right? That's the stigma. You got a problem, just get over it. Like, say a prayer. That's what say a prayer, you'll be fine. But there's also pray and work. Get on your knees and pray, and get on your feet and work. And sometimes that work is being open to go and get counseling. And I just feel so strongly that young people who are tuning in, or parents, you know, telling people to get over it, it's not good advice. It's very wrong, you know. And you should be open to say to your children, do you need to go counseling, or do you need to talk to someone that's not me, you know, being able to give them that pathway to go down. And so I love all the experiences, and I know that every single person on the show right now has gone through trials, right? Everyone's gone through so much heartache, and you just think, why me? Like, how come I'm going through this? And if you are brave to talk to other people about it, you're going to see that there are so many people out there who are struggling. They're just not brave enough like you to share it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sandy. You shared that, and I was thinking about what is it that causes that, right? What is it that causes, like, for Islanders, we don't go counseling, and that's because we're not used to talking about things, right? Like, when, I don't know about you guys, but it's like, I feel like in my family, when something's happening, we don't talk about it. We just like pretend like it never happened, just sweep under the rug and carry on. Like, that's kind of like and I think that's a cultural thing, maybe, that you don't talk about stuff. And I love the fact that we're highlighting they actually do need to talk. You do need to talk about it, and to seek medical, seek actual professional help if you need it. If you need it. So
to try and get rid of the stigma as well, I've been to counseling. I went to marriage counseling, and I think at first when the person said, "Oh, do you want to go to counseling?" I was kind of like, "Oh, I've never been to counseling. I don't even know anyone that's ever been to marriage counseling." But I went because I had problems in my marriage that I wanted to resolve, and so I went. But it's actually, for me, it was really awesome. And the only reason why I stopped is because we moved overseas. But every time I went to counseling, I was getting help for me. She was helping me become a better person, working me through my problems. So there's nothing shameful or scary about counseling, but it's an opportunity for someone to help you work through and navigate your problems.
Awesome. Thank you, Abish, for sharing that. Okay, to wrap up, ladies, I'm going to ask one final question, and everyone's going to have an opportunity to answer. And the question is, what have you learned in your life's experiences that is helping you to not compare yourself to other people, or not be ashamed of not having it all together, or makes it okay to, like, we didn't quite get to talking about wanting more. Maybe we can continue that another time, but let's go with the first two, right? So what in your life's experience, if you could like sum it up in a lesson that you learned to share with the viewers about comparing and about not having it all together, what would you tell our viewers? Something you've learned that will help them to they can consider from your experiences in your life that is related to those two things.
That's such a good question.
I think with mine, with my personal experience that I shared earlier, one thing that's kind of a lesson that I would take away from that is I've learned to look at the positive side of things. Like, at one stage you were in a good relationship with that person that you may have had a fallout with, or whatever it was, right? But I tend to think of it in this way, especially within my marriage. If ever a time I'm feeling like really to the point that where I just feel like, okay, I'm going to divorce this guy tomorrow, or I'm so annoyed at him, or whatever it is that you're going through at the time. As we do, right? I tend to go back and I try to think of everything good that he's done, and I try to weigh it out. And then a lot of the time, most of the times, I find myself laughing and just dwelling and thinking, pondering on those good memories, those wonderful moments that I've shared with that person. Like, just being more optimistic, looking at the positives rather than the negatives. I just find, like Abish said, if you surround yourself and just, surround yourself with positive people within your bubble, I feel that it boosts your self-esteem. It gives you more peace of mind, so to speak. And I've found that has really helped me. And my husband always tells me whenever I'm about to, like, if he's on the phone or something, I'm like, who are you texting? Who are you messaging? Or whatever, It used to be so annoying, but he'd always, like, joke and say, be positive, and then, like, I'd have a giggle and laugh about it, But then that's always helped me, just being positive, and surrounding yourself with positive people. That's one thing I would say as a lesson that I've learned.
Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you. Something that came to mind when you were talking was that if we're being honest, no one really knows what they're doing. Like, when I was little, I used to be like, I can't wait till I'm an adult, and do this. And now I'm an adult, like, nah, man, I still don't know what I'm doing. You know, like being young and you see all these adults and you're like, man, they must have. No, we don't. Like, we really do not know. Everything is trial and error, and that's what I want to put out, is that we might not know what we're doing, or we might not have it all together, but doing it alone is not an option. Like, be brave enough to speak out to your friends, speak out to your family, or seek help outside your bubble if you feel that you don't want anyone to know your problems from people that know you. And so I spoke about education and being compared to other children growing up. I don't want you guys to go and dog your parents right after the show, because that's all they knew. Okay, parents, that's all they knew growing up. So that's the thing that they taught their children, and it'll be like us. We teach what we know, and so now that we know that going to school isn't the only way to be successful, we have the ability to change that. But in no way do I want you to go and growl your parents after this for comparing you, because that's all they knew, right? And I take my hat off to all the old school parents, right, for the way that they've brought us up. Yep. I love it, and they've just taught us their way, but we now know another way, and it's our turn to show the next generation of children. So don't compare yourself to other people. I promise you it's not going to end well, and if anything, I want you to turn your comparison into inspiration. If you see someone online that looks like their life is amazing, instead of being negative or comparing yourself, actually ask them, you know, how is your life that way? And I promise you, people like to talk about themselves, so they will share. So turn your comparison into inspiration.
I love that. Thank you for that, Sani. When you were saying that, I thought about that phrase, when you know better, do better. And I think that's it. It's like, as you learn, everything in life is like a journey of learning, right? Is what you said, is trial and error. When you figure out what works for you, then you'll be able to do better, especially for those that come after you. Awesome comments. Thank you, Gladys and Sani. We'll go to Abish, and then Irene can wrap up for us.
I think comparing, if you have a problem or issue comparing yourself to people, social media or whatever, I think you need to stop and take a look at how awesome you are within your own self. Get to know yourself. And I had to do that. I had to really have a look at who I was at my core. And then I started to think, I don't even really know myself as well. And so I started to try and figure out who I really was, what I really liked, what my talents were. And so I would say get to know yourself, but also, rather than spending too much time or a lot of time looking at these people on social media, try and focus more of that time on yourself and becoming who you want to become at your core.
Love it. Okay, for me, oh gosh, guys, self-love. You gotta know when to love yourself, and that it's okay to put yourself first. And it's okay, like everyone else on the panel has said, it's okay to ask for help. It's all right. And not only that, but for me, I'm just talking from my own self. Man, I'm blessed. I really am. And once I realized the blessings that I have as my family, we're such a tight-knit unit. I wouldn't have it any other way. And they helped me go through my dark times, especially my husband. And I think the other thing I would say, with regards to all of those things that Fusi has put out, comparison, those dark things that we go through, etc. Listen to those parents out there. Listen, get to know your child. Sometimes you'll just miss something. I learned that a long time ago. To listen to my children. And this is the one thing I tell them, even now I counsel them. Whether, it doesn't matter how good or how bad it sounds, don't be afraid to just speak up and just tell us. not every parent's going to be like that. I get it. But for me, that's the kind of parent I am. I want my children to trust me and know that whatever they share within these four walls of our home is safe. And that I will do anything and everything within my power that I have to help them go through whatever they're weathering, whatever storms they're going through, because I've been there. And so, man, I'm grateful for you ladies, honestly, eh? Yeah, that's pretty scary just sharing like that. Like, just man, I'm being serious. Thanks, Fusi.
Thank you, Irene, and
Yeah.
for your awesome comments. I'll just before I wrap up everything you guys just said, I'll just add my 5 cents to the awesome advice the ladies have given, which is because we've been talking a lot about comparison and about not having it all together. And the thought that came to me is something I always have to remind myself, because I think it is hard not to compare, like especially just looking all sorts of different places. And this is some advice I gave to a friend of mine recently, because it is something that I think I always have to learn, which is don't look sideways, look up. And I say don't look sideways because you're always going to feel not content with your life if you're looking at other people's but not trying to figure out how do you improve and fix yourself. Like, do things to help you improve, rather than me focusing energy looking at other people and like how glamorous their life looks in comparison to how stink I feel mine is. Rather than spending energy there, focus my energy on asking God to help me see myself for who I am. And I think that's my line. If there was one line to sum up how I feel about all of these things and what the inspiration I've received from the awesome advice our panelists have given tonight, is remember who you are. You're meant to be you. You're meant to be unique. You're meant to be special and different. And rather than focusing on how everyone else appears, focus on bringing out those qualities that God gave you to be different. And so I'll just sum up tonight the advice that the ladies gave, because that is pretty much connected to the challenge. So if you're struggling in terms of comparing yourself to other people or feel like you don't have it all together, remember these things. Be positive, be brave, and speak out and seek help. Remember how awesome you are. It's okay to put yourself first and give yourself some self-love, and don't look sideways and look up. And so the challenge this week is think about your own experiences from your life, and drop a comment below on this video and tell us what would, if you were to give the same, like if you were in the same shoes, which is we asked you to give advice to everyone out there in terms of how to deal with comparison and how to deal with not feeling like you have it all together, what would you tell everyone? Drop that comment below, and we'll add that to our list of advice, and we might share some of that next week with, on our next show. But thank you everyone for joining in today, and I just want to give a special shout out to my the lovely ladies on our panel. Again, we have Irene, Abish, Gladys, and our normal host Saini, for all their the courage and the bravery in sharing their own experiences, as you would have experienced. Like, they've shared a lot of things that are deeply personal to them, and I just want to thank them for having the courage to share that, and also for hopefully helping you to know you're not alone in this journey that we're all in. And as we all take these different paths, I hope that as we are doing all these different things, that eventually we'll find ourselves in the place that we've been talking about, which is feeling happy. I think that's what the ladies have been talking about, is how do you get to a place where you're happy with your life and yourself? As we work on that and follow our own paths as God directs it, we will end up there being happy. And so we conclude with that thought. Take care, everyone, and we will see you next week for our next episode of A Righteous Woman. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.